Also, let's make sure we're learning from what we just went through and are going through, okay? Because there are lessons that I think we all should be aware of over the past few months. And before you take a step forward, let's make sure we know what we're stepping into. A question that I've had from day one, and when you look back at this, where were the horns that should have been triggered back in December and January? Where were the warning signs? Who was supposed to blow the whistle? The president has asked this question, and I think he's right. The president's answer is the World Health Organization should have been blowing the whistle. I don't know enough to know if that's right or wrong, but I know the question is right. And sometimes the question is more important than the answer. How did this happen? I mean, I still want to know how this happened, because the warning signs were there. And if you don't know the answer, then how do you know it's not going to happen again? Right? Fool me once. January, you go back and look at the headlines in January, and you see questions, and you see warnings. Now, they were all over the map, but we saw what was happening in Asia. We saw what was starting to happen in Europe. Where were the international experts saying, well, if this is happening there, this is what we should expect to happen in the United States, or prepare to happen in the United States? January, February, you still had sources in this country saying, basically, there's nothing to worry about. How did that happen? And did we really need to be in this situation where the United States winds up with a higher number of cases than the places that went before? We sat here and we watched China. China winds up having 84,000 cases. We wind up having 474,000 cases. I mean, how does that happen? We saw South Korea. They wind up with 10,000 cases. Italy, where we saw a collapse of the whole health system, winds up with 143,000 cases. I raise the question because the answer, again, is less important than the question. But before we move forward, let's make sure we're not repeating the same mistake that we made, right? George Santayana. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I don't want to repeat what we just repeated.